Hey makers! In this video we are going to be putting our Thistle style character together and doing the finishing touches. So if you'd like, you can follow along with me. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the body, and I'm going to grab the clothing material, so the piece for the shirt, and I'm going to go ahead and just lay the body on top of that, and then just kind of wrap it. And if you don't want this much overhang, you can always fold it or cut it. Right there. I'm going to go ahead and just fold it. I'm going to open it back up and glue inside of there. I'm just going to add a little strip of hot glue. And fold that over. And then we can kind of turn it if we need to once we get it on, before we secure it completely in place. I'm just going to lay that corner down. We're doing this a little bit different way, and so I'm hoping that you guys can hear me okay. So I'm going to go ahead and apply a little bit of hot glue right here. I'm just applying it to that place I already folded over. And I'm going to kind of pull tight, but not too tight, just to get it to lay down snugly so it doesn't move around a whole lot. I will pull it down just a little bit if I need to put the head on. And then I'm going to go ahead and rotate this just a little bit more so that the seam is a little more in the center. Now, if you don't want this part in the front at all, you could do it on the back side. Okay, so we have the clothing on there now. I'm going to go ahead and put the sleeves on. You can also finish the sleeves off on the edge if you need to by either folding it inward like this, and gluing if you'd like. You can also add lace if you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and leave it, I think, kind of how it is. I probably will add a little bit of hot glue to the end here, or I may just go ahead and take it up a little bit closer to where the seam ends. I'm actually going to go ahead and do that, but I want to have both sleeves together when I do, so that they are evenly cut. So I'm going to turn this over in my hand so I can see where that seam stops. And I'm going to cut it kind of straight across. Okay. Now I'm just going to take and slip the sleeves over the end that we glued down and folded. This does not matter, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm just going to slip that on there. I'm going to do the same thing with the other sleeve. Just slip it right down on there. Okay. I'm going to take my two sleeves, and you need to decide where the seam is if you want it towards the back, which I do. And then I'm going to kind of match it up onto the body. Okay. Now I'm going to take a needle and thread, and a way that you can do this that will allow you to hold your material in place is you can grab an elastic okay. just kind of get it where you want. And then I'm not gonna like tie multiple times or anything. I just wanna hold this here so that I can slip my needle through there and it's in the right spot without moving around a whole lot. So this is to help me do that. Let me grab my thread. And my needle. Go ahead and use my longer needle to go all the way through easily. And for this, I'm going to double my thread just to give it extra strength in those arm joints. So I'm just tying those two threads together. Now, I'm going to start on the inside of the first arm. So I'm going to go on the inside here, go right through. I'm just going at the halfway, you can see it right there. And I'm just going to go straight across. Come out. And I don't want this to be snug all the way up against the body. So I'm not trying to pull my string all the way into the body. I'm going to leave a little overhang. I'm going to grab a couple buttons. So I'll be using white buttons. Go through the first side and then back into the second. Oops. Here we go. And then I'm going to go back through the arm. Just try not to hit the metal. I want to try and go straight across into the other arm. Remember, don't pull tight. Like that, don't pull like that. Leave a little bit of excess on the front end where we first started. I'm going to grab my other button, go in one end, through the other side, and then I'm going to go into the front. And this time I'm going to come out right here, and then I will be tying this together. So I can go ahead and take this elastic off. Now, pull this out a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and take this and cut off my needle. Okay. I'm going to tie a knot on the inside of the arm, pulling tight. I'm going to do it about 3 or 4 times. One more for good measure. And then I'm just going to cut this excess off. Straighten up my body a little bit. Storm today. Stormy, stormy weather. All right, so there's that. Now I would like to go ahead and do the shoes. So I'm going to grab those shoes that we finished making in the last video. And the first thing that I'm going to do is slip these feet inside, and I'm going to bend them back out. And I'm just going to kind of manipulate them into the hole. Just kind of work it over. Now, if your foot is too wide to go in here, you can always pinch it together a little bit if you need to, so that it'll fit a little bit better inside of the shoe. But I wouldn't squeeze really hard so that you have plenty of width to kind of fill in that shoe. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and work it down, and then we're going to fill the empty space with a little bit of polyfill. So there's our first shoe. Grab my needle, put it up. Let's get this one, and I'm going to go ahead and take my needle and just pop that little bit of material that was still in there. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. So I'm going to bend it straight and just kind of wiggle it in there. Okay, and then I'm going to rebend it back flat, and you just have to kind of feel so you know where that little ankle that we created, that little ankle joint is. So there's both feet in there. Now we want to fill in some of that space, empty space, so that the shoe looks like it has a foot in it a little bit more. So I'm going to grab some polyfill, and I'm just going to pull apart some loose pieces. And I always start small, so we don't need a whole lot. I'm going to take my needle nose pliers. I'm just kind of wrapping it, and then I'm just going to stick it in here, just to kind of stuff it. Okay, I'm going to grab a little bit of more. Stuff it in there, and I'm just going to fill it until I feel like that it has kind of a good foot look. So it looks like it's not, and it kind of feels like there's more width inside of there, more thickness. And I may be able to use my finger, but I don't think so. Yeah, I can. Okay, there's enough room. I'm just going to stuff it in there and just kind of fill it up. Okay, then I can stuff a little bit in the very back so that it's underneath that ankle just a little bit, down in the back part. This just will help your character stand well. Okay, that shoe is good. You can always add more details to your shoe if you'd like. You can add little bows and shoestrings if you want to. I'm just going to go ahead and stuff this other foot. Now they're both done. Check for balance. Let me go ahead and get the front of the shoe. I've tucked it in, so I'm going to go ahead and stuff it a little bit more, and then I'm going to pull that out. There we go. So I'm going to stand my character up and make sure. And then you can bend the arms. All right, now we are ready to work on the head. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a little backside for the head. So I'm just going to take another one of these trouser socks and I'm just going to cut it short. So I just cut that toe off and I'm going to fill this up with polyfill. Not super tight. I'm just grabbing a little bit loosely, right? And then I'm just going to kind of fold it over and stuff it in there. Okay, this is not going to be seen. This is specifically to add the back of the head so that it has more filled out. So that is plenty for me of the polyfill. Let me go ahead and add a rubber band for right now. Just to get my bearings. Just want to make sure it's going to be a good fit. Okay, so now I'm going to sew. I'm going to grab my needle and thread. So I'm going to take my smaller needle. Goodness gracious. Tie the end. That felt a little bit tiny. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go underneath my little elastic. So I'm just going to start right here. And I'm going to go, and I'm just going to go all the way across just to seal the little bag. Back and forth. Okay, I'm almost done. Just going back to the beginning. This is just going to really lock this closed. Okay, and I'm going to trim this off. All right, now I'm going to put this up against the head. And I'm going to start sewing down here at the side. And I'm just going to sew it together. So I'm holding that thing in place, that head in place. I'm sorry, the little bag. I'm just going back and forth, back and forth. And I don't want to sew the bottom part all the way closed. I want to be able to get a finger up inside of here so that I can anchor it onto the neck. So I'm going to go ahead and go just a little bit further. And then I'm going to tie it. So I want to make sure, get my finger in there. Okay. And then I'm just going to anchor this here. So I'm just going to knot it. Go through my loop. And then I'm going to do, oops, my little wrap tie. 1, 2, 3, pull it down, and then slip it through. Okay. Don't forget, you got to make sure you got that little hole in there for your finger. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and leave the thread on for right now because I believe I'm going to use it again to go ahead and put this on the head, on the neck. Okay. So I'm going to take some hair and determine how long I want it down the body. Okay. Scoot that out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and wrap, zigzagging my yarn back and forth, back and forth. You can do loops if you want. You can wrap it around cardboard or something like that if you need to. Do it about 15 to 20 times. Okay. Cut that off. And then I need to put a piece of tape on there. There we go. Thought I lost my tape. We're going to check it. Okay. I'm going to have to do that on both sides. So here's my tape on the other side, right here. So I'm going to try and get this piece of tape right over that one. Okay. And then I'm going to sew a line right here. Okay. And I'll be right back. Okay, so now I've sewn a line on the tape, and I'm going to go ahead and take the tape off. Carefully, carefully. Okay. All right, now let me show you. So the yarn that I'm using is it's called Snuggle Up Mink, and it is by Yarn Bee. And here is the name and color. Okay, and it's just that real thin. You can see, kind of looks hairy. Okay, so now that I have this done, I'm going to go ahead and show you how it will lay. So there'll be this, but I want to let you know, so I also did a smaller piece, same thing, just smaller, and this will be for my bangs. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that on there, and then this will be on top, and that will be our hair. Okay, so let me go ahead and start with this piece. Okay, so I'm just going to take it and I'm going to lay it on the seam, and you need to decide how long you want the bangs, if you want them to kind of part a little bit, which I need to cut this really quick. So you'll need to decide that. Let me look at here again. Okay, so there's my bangs. And I'm just going to add hot glue right here to the top of the head. And then we'll trim the excess once we get it all put together. So it looks kind of silly right now, but it won't here in a minute. Okay, and then I'm going to take my other piece, my longer piece. Make sure I have the halfway on that. You want to pay attention to where your seam is. I'm going to go ahead and cut these threads so they don't show. And I'm going to take and lay this right on top, just like this. And I'm going to fold that front piece, the edge, I'm going to fold it under. And that'll give me my hair. Okay. So let me go ahead and add a little bit of glue. I'm going to look at it one more time. I want to definitely add a little bit of glue right here, so I can fold that. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and put it on here one more time before I glue it down. Okay. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the top. I'm going to lay that right there. Okay. Now, not going to cut the hair just yet. Just hold on just a little bit longer. Just going to go ahead. That's just to secure that in place. Now I want to go ahead and put the head onto the body. So I'm going to slip that little hole right there. And you can see she's on the body. Okay. So now I'm going to take and insert some hot glue into that hole. So I'm just going to squeeze a decent amount of hot glue inside of the hole between the two bags on the head, basically. And I'm going to slip that neck part right up inside of there and make sure it's snug. And we're still not going to cut the hair just yet. We're going to wait until we get the hat on. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of hot glue right here under the neck so that the neck lays down good. And if you'd like to, you can even sew the head onto the body, completely up to you. Now, see a little piece of hot glue. Let's get this secure. Just want to make sure this really sets. Okay. Now, still not going to cut the hair just yet. I'm going to go ahead and cut off this piece. I always leave it just in case there's anything I need to do extra. I'm going to grab the hat and my needle nose pliers, and I'm going to go right inside since it's inside out. I'm going to turn my hat right side out. I'm going to take it back in there while I'm turning. Go ahead and poke this point. Okay, so the hat is right side out. Now I'm going to take my little one and I'm going to put the hat on her. And I left the hat so that you could adjust the size as needed. If you need it a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. It starts off a little bigger. Now, just kind of play with her hair and decide if you want to cut it. Now, once you get the hair and the hat like you want on her, and you can fold the hat up. It's very cute. Okay, now once you get the hat and the hair like you want it, if you want to go through and trim her up, you can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the loops that are still here and I'm just going to cut those loops off. So I'm just making a snip. I'm taking each loop and just snipping. And I'm just making sure I get them all. And I'm going to go all the way around. And this one's a little bit long, so I'm going to just trim it off. All right, so there is that. And if you want her hat to be further back, you can just pull it further back if you'd like. I really like it like this. But there is your little Thistle style character. Let me go ahead and trim these other little pieces of thread from me sewing the ends together. I think that's it. But there she is. I hope you enjoyed this class, and I will be checking in with you next week to make sure we'll have a live Q&A. So if you have any questions about this project, bring them to me next week in the live if you'd like. You're welcome to ask me before then, but any questions that you have, we will be addressing next week during the live class. All right, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend and happy crafting. See ya.